Well, hello there again, and welcome back to Sunday School with Carpo. I haven't done one of these in a while, and I'm not doing it as some kind of an arrogant, I'm holier than thou thing, or I'm actually here to teach. It's more of kind of a joke. Just so you know, my sarcasm is a little dry, but when I say Sunday School, um, you know, it's funny because I never went to church as a kid, but I do recall a friend of mine inviting me one time to go to his church because they were having a snowboarding event where we were going to go to the mountain and Mount Hood, and we were going to go up there and we were going to snowboard, spend like a week there, and of course it would be like a Bible camp type thing. And he warned me ahead of time. They'll have Bible stuff, but we'll go snowboarding. So we got up there, we settled in, and it started raining, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained. I don't remember much about that weekend except it was kind of like there was a Sunday school at the event, and I remember having to sit and listen to this bullshit God lecture for like a week straight with no snowboarding. We didn't get to do anything fun. About 3 days in, I had my headphones and my Walkman, and one of the kids ratted me out because I had my own Walkman and headphones. And even though I was a guest, they said, "Oh well, you can't have those here. It's against the rules." They didn't like that I was listening to rock and roll. So this turned into just kind of a nightmare. It's like, you got rid of my music. I hate sleeping in these shitty bunk beds. Anyway, and uh, and then there was another time where I went to Sunday school one time with a friend, just so we could go skating afterwards, I think. Other than that, I've been pretty devoid of any church interactions. And I'm not any lesser of a man for it, I'll tell you that. I have developed my own connection with God, my own connection with truth. I don't feel I have to defend or define it to anybody. Um, I'm not an atheist, but I'm not religious. I'm the kind of guy who walks out in the woods and I talk to trees and I say, "Thanks, God, whatever and whoever and whatever you may be, for my existence." And if I'm in a really hard bind, I'll ask for help, but it's not coming from any specific attachment to an outcome. I don't expect to be forgiven or rewarded for anything. I don't expect a heaven. If all these things come, that would be great. But that's in a nutshell, just kind of my take on religion. And in this world we live in right now, the mentality that we have as a society is aimed towards growth, progress. And then there's another side that's much more kind of traditional, hanging on to the old ways. It's always been, a push and a pull. But ultimately, we have a hard time figuring out what we should learn. And that's why Sunday school is a perfect definition. If you are to go in and you're to spend time learning about something, what do you think is important? Is it about some unknown God, or reading a Bible verse? For some people, it may be. Or could it be about, for some people, their religion more or less is what's going on with politicians or with celebrities? I mean, there's an entire cult surrounding these things. But for many people, they just want to learn about themselves. And the reason why this isn't more popular is because it's painful to learn about yourself. This is why psychedelics aren't more popular. Some people wonder why doesn't everyone take psychedelics? There are many people who have and have fought them and resisted them because they don't want to think about the pain of the past. They don't want to process the things they've gone through, and therefore they resist it. They end up being the people who end up with headaches or having, quote, bad trips. And I use psychedelics because it's kind of a macrocosm of the microcosm of just general psychology, dealing with your problems, talking about your problems. People shut down. They don't want to handle it. They can't cope a lot of the time. So that's something I can understand. I'm not saying people should just be able to deal with their shit. Trauma is difficult. PTSD can be something people don't want to process, and that's understandable. But ultimately, we all suffer and we all should analyze it. And the best way to do this is through, and I've said it 1,000 times in the past, emotional intelligence. And when people speak of intelligence, they're often caught up in the book smarts. They're like, oh, wow, this person's really smart. He's an inventor, or he created something. That's only one form of intelligence. And of all the people who have come up with their own list of different forms of intelligence, the most I've seen was, I believe, like 12 or 13 different forms, including, societal intelligence, I guess it would be social intelligence, emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence seems to be the most important one, because if you can analyze how you feel about yourself, about others, about the world, then it makes it easier for you to interact with other people. And then you can become more like the people that you revere, those who care. I mean, maybe you don't revere those who care about others. I think it's often, it comes down to our upbringing and what we think is important. But it's hard for people to really hate those who promote peace and love. But often those who do resist that do so because they don't want to analyze their own emotional content. They don't want to figure out where they come from. They don't want to figure out who they are. And from a mental state, like, what were your roots when you were a kid? What kind of experiences did you have that built who you are? And to be able to process these things and move past them is one of the most crucial aspects of being a human. I've had my own trauma. My dad died when I was 15. I've said that a lot of times, but I don't use that as a crutch. But it is probably one of the things that shaped me in my stubbornness towards male role models. Whereas some people who lose their dad when they're really young may strive to find a role model, those who are a little older when they lost their dad might resist role models. And that's, I guess, been me. Because my brother, for example, he's always looked up to certain people. I just don't, and I never have. And I'm not saying I don't respect or revere those who do amazing things. I just see them for what they are. They're just human beings. I don't need signatures from rock stars or philosophers or anybody else. It's not my thing. I don't care. But at the same time, we all get a little mesmerized by those we look up to. So maybe I'm not saying that's a bad thing to have that attachment to others. I actually kind of wish I had it more. I wish I had more male role models. But it is what it is. So we live our lives. We try to navigate this crazy thing we call life and figure out what's important to us. And in that process, I think analyzing our emotion is probably the best way to see where we're really coming from and what we really need as individuals. Because ultimately, if we can't have empathy with others, we're missing out on so much. I think, anyway. I guess it once again depends on your circumstance and your environment. If you live in a place where you just need to be tough, then be tough. But being able to talk about who you are and how you feel, I think, is one of the most rewarding aspects that we can develop. I'm out. Peace.